The word coach, it can be defined as a person who teaches an athlete or trains a performer. Further, the definition could be described as instructing or providing advice. And while it may be a sensational statement, I would almost guarantee that in all of our lives, we've had a coach that has provided influence, advice, help us get to the next level. And we find coaches in so many different places. We find career coaching, there's leadership coaching, nutrition, fitness, and of course, athletics. And in Durham, North Carolina, we've got some of the best collegiate coaches that this country can ever find. The Durham Sports Commission, it is an important part of the growth of the city. And founded in 2016, the DSC, as we like to refer to it, it recognizes the opportunities that exist given the assets at hand. One such opportunity is for us to have the ability to bring together thought leaders in an engaging conversation, especially during the month of March, which has been designated the National Women's History Month. Sports in the Bull City is important, and we're thrilled to bring you another installment of the Commission's Bull Sessions to explore facets of women in sports. And today, you guessed it, it is all about coaching. So with that, let me introduce our two guests today. Tricia Stafford Odom was announced as North Carolina Central University's 9th head coach for women's basketball back in May of 2017, and she has just completed her 4th season guiding the Eagles that here in 2021. She has a reputation as being one of the nation's best recruiters, and over the last 10 years in her coaching experiences, she's actually found herself not only next door at Chapel Hill with UNC, but she's also had a stint at Duke. After graduating Cal Berkeley with a degree in mass communications in 1992, Stafford Odom, she pursued a career playing professional basketball, a couple of stints with the WNBA in Houston and Miami, as well as time with the ABL, the NWBL, the MBDL, and NBA Entertainment and the European leagues. Our second guest, our other guest, I should say, she's been the only head coach for Duke women's lacrosse in their history. Kirsten Kimmel has led the program from its inception back in 1996. And in Kimmel's 25 years at the helm of Duke women's lacrosse, she has guided the Blue Devils to 7 national semifinals, 4 ACC regular season titles, an ACC tournament championship, and 19 tournament appearances. And Kimmel is no stranger to NCAA Division I women's lacrosse before her time at Davidson, having played at the University of Maryland from 1990 to 1993. To learn more about each, I would invite you to visit the North Carolina Central Athletic website. That is nccueaglepride.com. And you can also visit the Duke website, which is goduke.com. So, my name is Trip Durham, and I am thrilled to lead today's Bull session. And folks, hang on. I'm going to bounce all over the place. And I'm going to get to a point to where I want you, the audience, to say, I didn't see that question coming. And that's part of the engagement. My MO is not to ask the same question twice because I like to hit as many areas as possible. But I will make one exception, and that will happen right now. I would ask each of you, and Tricia, we'll start with you. How did it come about that you chose sport and coaching sport? How did you choose that as a career?
First, thanks for having me, Trip. Sounds cliche, but I don't think I chose coaching as a career. I think that by what I was passionate about, the things that became habitual for me, it was an easy transition, and I had mentors as a player that planted seeds and said, hey, you're going to be a great coach. So that's something I heard as a player, especially as an injured player, sitting on the sideline, learning the game from a different perspective. I think it started to sink in that this is something that I'd be good at. And so I enjoyed it, and it kind of just grew on me. So I was some unforeseen opportunities put me in situations where I realized I'm a coach.
For me, I grew up the daughter of physical education teachers and a basketball coach, and really my mother was a coach as well. And growing up in the suburbs of Philadelphia, in a working class town, we had, and quite frankly, surrounded by a lot of women who, in the suburban Philadelphia area, Westchester University or Sinus College kind of churned out fantastic female athletes, fantastic coaches, role models. And so I grew up in this world where coaching was kind of all around me. Although my parents kind of didn't encourage me to get to get into that profession. But I ended up choosing lacrosse by default. I grew up playing everything: field hockey, basketball, softball, and I ran track. And as I progressed through middle school and I was a successful runner and was a pretty good softball player, my father was like, "Why don't you try lacrosse?" And I was like, "No, all my friends play, but I don't, I'm not going to be any good." And he just kept pushing me to try it. And so I picked it up kind of late in 9th grade and fell in love with it, earned the opportunity to go to the University of Maryland. And then I feel like I went to Maryland thinking I was going to be a journalist and still be involved in sports because that was the way of my upbringing. That was my family's way. But then I had the opportunity in the summers during college to work for my college coaches' summer camps. And back then, summer camps were like 7 days, right? Or 5 days, which now they're like 2 one-day things, right? Trisha's like laughing. Yes, like the old days. And I fell in love with the fact that I started the week with a group of kids and they had no chemistry. They could do nothing together and we stunk. By the end of the week, we won a championship. And that's when the coaching bug kind of kicked in with me a little bit. And I was willing to be a teacher or a coach, and I kind of fell into college coaching because I wanted to move to North Carolina. And so that's kind of how I got my start. I was very, very fortunate in my kind of coaching, the way I kind of got to Duke, as well as just fell into coaching at this level.
Kirsten, we established that you are the lacrosse coach at Duke, and I wonder, with a squad size of 30 to upwards 40 student athletes, not only do you need to be a coach and a mentor, it seems to me, too, that you also need to be a sociologist of sorts, because that's a lot of different personalities to deal with.
For sure. I mean, we joke that I've earned, in my 26 years at Duke, I've earned at least one honorary degree here at Duke. And I maybe sociology, maybe psychology. I think I could probably qualify for a few at this point unofficially. But I also think that, I think part of being able to manage a team this big is you have to have a great staff and you have to delegate and you have to rely and empower your staff to help you manage this number of players. And so, over the years, you learn and develop systems, whether they're of your own or you kind of learn from other programs, like how to manage, this number of kids. And the most interesting thing, and I'm sure Tricia would agree, is that, you see how kids have changed, and how the times have changed and how the landscape of college athletics changed. And so things that we're doing now are different than the things we were doing 10 years ago. And then, of course, there are some things we're doing that are the same as well. And I think at the end of the day, so much of your success hinges on the relationships you have with the kids and your ability to kind of build that bond and build that trust and put yourself in a position, where the kids allow you to coach them and coach them hard at times. And, again, that takes a lot of nuances, a lot of nuances in terms of how you run your program, run your staff, and how you work with each kid individually.
Tricia, by comparison, Kirsten has been in one place for 25 years. You've been in several different locales throughout the country. And I wonder, if you're playing sociologist with the kids coming in, Tricia, how much of a difference do you see in the makeup of students in different regions of the country, and do you have to form different styles of relationships based on geographic regions?
The philosophical parts stay the same. They don't change, they don't waver. But I will say that what happens is relationships are enhanced by similarities. So in different regions, if I can find that similarity, a commonality that a student athlete can relate to, then I think it expedites a bond that we may have. whether it's East Coast or West Coast, California, North Carolina, there are similarities, and I think it's my job as a coach, mentor, psychologist, sociologist, all those things that we become, Kirsten. I think it's my job to find the relatables, and I think that connecting the differences actually strengthen us, because we see that I also am in a place that's not home, but I've made it home, and I can be great where I am, and I can relate to anyone that's not from the area and tell them the goals remain the same. The aspirations remain the same, and honestly, you enhance and broaden your brand, you enhance and broaden your perspectives, and I think it all makes for you becoming a more well-rounded adult and individual, capable of functioning and being successful in the real world. So it just expedites the process of growth.
As a follow-up to that, you talk about connecting the differences. Are you overt in doing that? Meaning, do you physically or verbally say out loud, hey, you from this region, hey, from this region, you're different, but you're the same, let's connect that? Or is it more of an implied growth over the years you try to connect while those students are in the program?
I think it's intentional at times. I do think the way the world works now and everything being at the fingertips, I think I've got to do a better job of making it a definite focal point from the start of connecting people from different areas. I think right now I have a young lady from Toronto, Canada. I've got kids from Georgia, California, all over the place. And I think the sooner I put it to the forefront that, hey, these are the differences, but these are our common goals, and this is what we're trying to accomplish. If I put it at the forefront and we have these discussions, then I think we bond quicker. The chemistry happens faster, and when they're going through tough times, and it's coach against player, so to speak, the times where they need to bond, I think that happens more simplistically, because, hey, look, you came from here, you went through this, I came from here, I've gone through that. But at this moment, we're going through something together, and it doesn't matter that we're from different regions of the country.
Kirsten, my wife played high school basketball in Winston-Salem, and she reminded me in preparation for this conversation with the three of us today, she reminded me of a theory that she's been working on over the years. And as a female basketball player in her youth, she feels like that there are young females who may not be getting the building block coaching that they need as athletes at a young age, because in her mind, a lot of coaches are volunteers. A lot of coaches love the sport, but Kirsten, they may not know exactly how it is that the sport needs to be coached. So how critical in your mind for a young female athlete is it that she receive the best coaching possible at such a young age?
I mean, I could not agree more. And again, I've kind of talked a little bit about how I'm the daughter of physical education teachers, and I think some of this, physical education in this country has been downgraded from what it used to be. I mean, now it's just throw the balls out and play and run around. But I mean, I remember distinctly being in elementary school and learning how to pivot, learning how to change directions, learning how to shuffle. And in today's world, I have players on my team that don't know when I say, I need you to hit this line and pivot, and they look at me like I'm sideways. And they don't know some of the most basic fundamental physical skills because they're not being taught, first and foremost, in physical education. But I think the lack of structure and the lack of cohesiveness amongst sports governing bodies in terms of how to teach the most basic skills and concepts in sports, and kind of have that mandated for people who work in youth sports is a problem, because in today's age, youth sports is all about making money. And so, kids and parents are just as bad in that they just want their kids playing and competing and winning. Our families don't value their kids learning skills, concept, actually understanding the game. They only want to see the end result, whether that's the bucket, whether that's the goal, whether that's the basket, whatever it is. They want their kids to win. but they're doing it at the expense of their kids not really, kind of obtaining those skill sets that are the building block, that are the foundations. And so we even see at our level, Trip, that we get kids who are like the top kids in the country, and they don't know how to break down a 3v2 or a 4v3 fast break, offensively or defensively. So we spend, in my opinion, an inordinate amount of time working on those basic fundamental skills because they have not been taught. And likewise, which I think is even worse, is that I learned a lot of those skills playing basketball. In women's lacrosse, in men's lacrosse probably as well, there's no sport that correlates to women's lacrosse like basketball. And my basketball kids learn faster, they have better skills, they understand concepts quicker because they were all taught some of that stuff at a younger age. Some of them, not all of them, some of them. And so if you have those kind of basic skills and concepts as a younger athlete, it's going to help your trajectory as a player. You're going to learn faster. You're going to understand the game better. And then, if you aspire to play at this level, it is really, I can pick the kids out on the field who have played basketball, from youth on, or at a higher level. It just shows, or lacrosse. And if they've been coached in a good youth program or a good middle school, high school program, it really, really, really distinguishes kids at this level. So I completely agree with your wife's philosophy. I think there's a lot to that.
She'll be interested, because she will watch this after it's published. She'll be interested in this follow-up question to you, Kirsten. When you are in the home, in the living room, recruiting a student athlete, are you able to identify the type of background they've had? Now, you've admitted you can see them on tape, you get it. But when you're with them, when you're with the family, do you see it? Do you feel it then?
Yeah, you just kind of ask, you ask probing questions, so, what growing up, what did you do? And I think sometimes too, the sibling involvement, is it a kid who's, what did their family do during COVID? Did they sit around on their phones and their devices, or were they out in their backyard shooting baskets or shooting lacrosse balls? So you kind of get a sense of the culture of the family and what they value. And again, I think you can kind of pick out, and Trish probably can kind of agree with this, you can pick out the families pretty quickly that are focused on what I would consider to be the wrong things, versus the families who value the development, value the process of becoming a great player, a great person at the next level. I think that stuff, it's pretty, the ones who care about the wrong stuff, you see it on a very superficial level and you can see it pretty fast.
I totally agree with that. And I thought that was my world here in women's basketball, but I think it does definitely translate into all sports, all ages, all regions. And you can definitely, by your probing questions, by just basic questions that we'd ask, you can tell the perspectives and the mindsets of the families and the kids. It's a generational thing, and I agree with you. I laughed because I thought about having to dress for PE. I mean, it was mandatory, and it wasn't an argument. It wasn't optional. And these are things we learned. It wasn't throw the ball out there and four square and soccer ball and tetherball. We had to learn each and every sport. And I don't see that. I don't hear about that anymore. And I think I didn't know the value of it until I became a coach, understanding that I'm now coaching kids on the collegiate level, Division I, that elementary school, high school are teaching this. We're having the same issues of having to reteach fundamentals. So our level, we're thinking, did nobody teach you that? And the next level, they're looking at the collegiate coaches your college coaches didn't teach you that. So, and time frames play a part in it too. So as we recruit, we have to recruit and bring in the best, well-rounded, most developed players. That's the desire, because we have minimal time to go back. But it's imperative that in our programs, as we're building our program, we have to teach and have foundations. And so it's just imperative. And I agree with your wife. I agree with perspective that the mindset, first of all, that multiple sport athletes, I think they get it at a more rapid level. I think they've been tried differently, and they are out of their comfort zones easier than someone that's just stuck with one sport. I have children, multiple sport athletes, and it's so funny, Chris, and I don't know what you think about it, but right now what's being said to my 10th graders, choose. Like, what is he gonna do?
Yes.
Well, I'm like, do it until he figures it out. I think in speaking with other coaches, they believe. I think coaches, we're united in believing that it's best for the athlete, best for the kid. Do it all, learn it all, and it'll come together. And I think what parents are now focusing on is, like you said, the end result, and they want to know now, where are you going to have the best opportunities, maybe get paid the most, something like that. So they're skipping steps, and so there's a sense of urgency to train that kid in one sport and get them to where they need to be at elite level. But I do think we're missing a lot when you began to focus on one thing so early.
Right. And I had fantastic athletic sports parents, my own parents. Our only rule, we played a lot of things. We were never, our only rule is you cannot quit. If you start, you cannot quit. But then they never made us anything. And my siblings and I played sports at division level, and everybody thought our parents pushed us because my dad was a well-known basketball coach, and like could not be farther from the truth. But I made my oldest daughter play basketball in high school. I made her. I knew she wanted to play lacrosse in college, but her lacrosse team, she played at Cardinal Gibbons, won 4 state championships. She was a star, but they weren't challenged in the state. And I knew if she played basketball, and she was a good ball player, I was like, you are going to be challenged. Like, those Southeast Raleigh girls don't give a hoot. They're going to run you over because they got girls going to UConn and South Carolina. And I mean, and they, but it was, and I remember distinctly driving my daughter and one of our family friends who live here in Durham to, home from a game. And I'm like, and her friend, our family friend, is playing lacrosse at Villanova. And I remember telling both of them, like, you two are going to be better lacrosse players, and you are going to be way better at the college level because you are playing basketball right now, because it's hard, because your team is not dominant, because it's so physical. You're both skinny minis. You know what I mean? Like, you need to get in there and throw some bows, and I tell people that all the time. Like, I was not my own parent. I made her do this, but she's really grateful today, and she understands now how much it's helped her. And again, I agree. Like, we are both parents of sport kids. We see the ugly of the parents, and then you fall into it too, right? You're like, crap. Do I need to get her here? Do I need to get him there? And like doing all this extra stuff. It's awful.
It's awful.
Sorry,
it's awful. It's undue pressure.
Yeah.
It's like they're missing out on something because they're not. Absolutely. I'm right there. And that's why I can understand. So.
Yes.
Tricia, hearkening back to the question about how it is you found yourself in this line of work, are women actively being recruited to go into coaching? I ask because as their playing careers end, they've spent 8, 12 years of their lives playing the sport. Do we find that, Tricia, there's a proactive nature by which people are saying, you could extend your love for the game if you go into coaching?
Not as often as it should be. There should be overflows of young women, former athletes, waiting in line to be in coaching. And I don't think it's advocated enough. There are several different venues, one mainly at the NCAA tournament. So this year and the last year, it's saddening because of the WBCA, Women's Basketball Coaches Association. A lot of those things happen during the Final Four. There's a program that was called So You Want to Be a Coach program. And you had basically seniors, college seniors able to go to the program Final Four and get the entire experience of wanting to be a coach. I remember going to venues that basically advocated for women to be coaches, and it prepared us literally for what would you do if hired the first 60 to 90 days, and being able to format your program. So there's Women of Color Coaches Association right now. There's ABIS, there's advancement of blacks in sports. Those things are formulating now, and we're targeting minorities, but also women in coaching, because there's something about a female coach that can coach with a different perspective. I would say a motherly perspective. And I don't want to say that to make us seem soft, but there is just something else that ingratiates player to coach when a female's involved. I mean, and I'm generalizing, but that's been my perspective. So I do think we have to have more people angling and targeting and recruiting women as coaches. But I also think it needs to be said the value of what a woman can do as a coach and how we can influence lives.
To mix the metaphors, Kirsten, I think Tricia set the ball well up on a tee for my question for you. You've been at Duke. There we go. You've been at Duke for 25 years, and you've obviously built a lot of knowledge for yourself in those 25 years. If you could talk to your younger self, the person who's just started coaching way back when, what would you tell yourself? Because I would imagine there are some young females watching now who are thinking about coaching. So what advice would you give yourself for a younger age that will translate into advice for the people watching?
Well, I think that one of the things, and I'm sure Trish probably agrees with this, like as a young coach, not that you don't value learning, but you value it a lot more as an older coach, and being a lifelong learner, and also looking to not just people within your sport, but people outside of your sport, whether it's in actual other sports, or if it is to people who can give you the tools that you need to evolve as a coach. I think that's something that, I have definitely worked on in my time, and quite frankly, my daughter who plays at ECU wants to be a coach. So I kind of like being my father, like rolling my eyes, like, you really want to do this? Like, it's a tough profession, but it's also very fulfilling. And I have, it's like one saying we have around here: it's never as good as you think it is, it's never as bad as you think it is. And you have to be willing to ride that roller coaster on a daily basis. And I think that, advice to my younger self would be to kind of like strap on, ready for the ride, be ready for anything. I'm sure, we end up we wear so many hats as a coach. And I think that you need to learn the ones that you're good at, and you need to learn the ones that you really enjoy, and you need to hire people around you who can wear the other ones better than you to make your program better. And again, I think that that's something that I've gotten better at as I've gotten to be an older coach, but that I wish I had had as a younger person. I think when I was younger, I was like, oh, like I'm going to hire this kid who's on the national team, or I'm going to hire, you know what I mean? And I think it becomes, you look at everything more holistically as an older coach. And I wish I'd probably done that when I was younger. But, again, when you're younger, you don't know. You don't know these things. And that's part of the learning process. And I'm very grateful that my leaders here at Duke have been patient with me over the years, and allowed me to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes.
Tricia, we've all lived a pretty healthy sports life. College athletics is a wonderful career, and I shy away from the word balance. Balance seems to indicate a scale, right, that it should level off at some point. I like the word integration better. Tricia, how do you integrate being a mother? How do you integrate that personal life with the professional life as a female?
It's an art. It's an art, and I didn't know that I was an artist until I became a mother. So truly, it's just a continuation of life. I mean, I think I was raised, my parents raised me to be able to multitask. I think the worst thing in the world is someone that can only focus on one task at hand, can only find room enough in their heart to love one person at a time. I think that that's something that, being raised in a church, being raised by a pastor and a mother of love, it's something that I've been able to do all my life. And then I realized as I look back, this isn't easy. I got two boys, 15 and 13. wife of 22 years. My husband's active. But I think as I become a more experienced coach, I realize it's natural for me. It's multitasking at its finest. It's trying to be a multi-perfectionist at its finest, because the critique would be that people don't think you can be 100% in one area because you can't be 100% in all areas. But I'm striving for greatness in all areas, as a mother, as a wife, as a leader, mentor, and head coach. And I think as we continue to do these things, multitasking as family, as coaches and mothers, we're striving for higher levels. I'm setting the bars higher. And then my children are able to, my sons have been around me at UCLA, Duke, Carolina, Concordia. They see the inner workings of running a program. So they're getting business education 101 directly. They're getting understanding managerial styles. They're understanding communication at its highest level. They're understanding work ethic and the results of not working. So as they get older, they're seeing more and more how it really works. And I think they're getting an edge in life. Again, I'm also in the mindset of recruiting young women to be around my family. So now I'm setting the standard for understanding. I want characters and charismatic people and people of value in my program, because you're going to be around my family. So that way, I think one assistant aids the other. I think the young ladies I have around my boys, they have to be women of standard. My young men are now going to know how women are supposed to be treated. And then moving on to professionalism of the program and integrating the two. I would hope that as I'm recruiting young ladies and families, the parents understand I'm a family woman. So I understand the value of loving your child that you've entrusted me with. And I can love that person with discipline, but ultimately love. With chastening them, but ultimately love. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be real, and I'm going to always put myself in a situation where I'm thinking, would I want another coach to coach my children this way? And it keeps sort of like a consciousness over my head, so that I'm going to do it the right way always. And I feel good about it.
You know, one quick thing I have to add to that is that there's incredible value in having children grow up on a college campus and in this environment. You know, I think that they learn, again, they see a lot and they take a lot into what, you know, I don't want to repeat what Trish says, but you're so right. They see so much and they learn so much. And quite frankly, I think they're better equipped than their friends and classmates who, because they've been in this environment, they know how to act. They see how hard mom works. They want your team to win. They are invested in both your team and the girls individually, because let's be like, Trish, I'm sure your girls are at your house for dinner here and there, and you know, they come over, they hang out, and I think that's one of the benefits of being able to have that kind of balance or integration to what Tripp was talking about, of your family unit and then your kind of secondary family unit, which is your team and your program. So, you know, I think it's a huge benefit for your own children and your family. And again, it's all my children have known. You know, they walk around this place like they own it to a fault sometimes, you know, but I think they are well equipped to handle, you know, different situations that they may come into, whether they're in high school, college, where they know how to act. And again, I think that's a byproduct of growing up on these campuses.
Oh my God, I don't want to belabor that, but you just touched on something. I mean, transitional period right now, season's over, reevaluations of scholarships and staffs and all that stuff. And it's so funny because, I mean, it is currently, my son, my older, is able to separate its business from it shouldn't have anything to do with me and, you know, something else. So they learned that early.
Yes.
Having been on, I mean, and I'm like teary-eyed understanding that, wow, my kid gets it already, when some adults and older people don't get it. You know, it's nothing personal. And then my kid to this day, I don't, like I said, Tripp, I'm on your time, but it's so funny because My older son Amari, doing very well, multi-sports and everything. He swears he's Russell Westbrook because of the environment he was in at UCLA. Like that's him. He thinks that's him. And again, it does nothing but give them goals to reach and attain them. They see how how practical their goals can be.
Exactly.
I chuckle when you say the older people, they don't get it, because in my mind, we just lost half of our audience because they went, oh, we don't get it. We don't need to watch the rest of this. I want to come back around. I mentioned that my MO is not to ask the same question twice, but given the spirit that you two are showing on today, I do want to ask, Tricia, you've gone away and come back to the Durham area. Kirsten, you have stayed in Durham for 25 years. What is it, and Tricia, we'll start with you, and then Kirsten, you can fold in behind. Tricia, what is it about the Durham environment that is so, I'll say, inspirational? My words, not yours, but what inspires you to be in this environment of Durham?
I actually really enjoy the area. Initially, years ago when I was younger, kids were a lot younger, the selling point, the pulling point for me to come from California was that it's a great place to raise a family. I didn't understand that. But I found myself saying that just last night to a young lady from a different area, saying, hey, it's a great place to be. The pace is different, but it's not boring. It's not a countrified area. It's ingratiating to different ethnicities. It's a cool place growing. You can find your identity. I talked about the 4 seasons, which in California, we didn't see 4 seasons. I remember being here initially, seeing the changing of colors on the leaves of trees, being hot, being cold. And I loved those things, but being around intellectuals as well, just in the Triangle area, being close to Duke, being close to Carolina. I just think it's a great place to be. My boss, Dr. Ingrid Rickert McCree, has allowed me to put my foot in this program and establish myself, and she's entrusted me to build something. And there's no better feeling than to understand someone trusts you with creating something. It's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel so fortunate to live in this area. I've been able to watch it grow and evolve over the last 25 years, and all for the better. Durham is diverse. It's eclectic. You have a little bit of everything and a little bit of the best of everything. You have we have some of the nation's best colleges and universities. We're home to some of the most significant companies, especially right now, given COVID and all of the vaccine generation and distribution. But we also have a lot of arts. We have arts, we have music, we have tremendous food. I mean, nobody will ever tell you that there's no town in North Carolina that has better food than Durham, North Carolina, and different kinds of food for that matter. And if you want something really simple like barbecue, or you want something really sophisticated, it's phenomenal. And so, and again, I agree with Trish, like it's a tremendous place to raise a family. There's so much to do. There's a lot of outdoor activities. Again, there's arts, there's intellectual things to stimulate your children. And I just think geographically, we're 2.5 hours from the beach and we're about 3 hours from the mountains. What more can you ask for? We also have the ability to get anywhere. RDU services just about everywhere in the country. So it's really attractive from that standpoint. And I think bottom line too, what attracts a lot of people here, especially some people who decide to retire in this area, is the healthcare system. I mean, we're the city of medicine for a reason. We have more doctors per square foot than anywhere else in the country. And I think that, I've certainly had my own medical issues and things as has our family. And there's no better place to be than this area in terms of getting the kind of care that you need as well. So it's just an awesome place to be, awesome place to raise a family, awesome place to live a very kind of full, fun life on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, the food aspect really hits home. That's why I wear black. It's very slimming, right? Because I think I gain weight when I just roll down the window and smell what's coming into the car from all the restaurants. Last question, one for each of you, and this is going to fit under the category, Trish, of I didn't think you was going to ask that. Young females, Tricia, what's your message to them at that moment of disappointment if they are not chosen to come to a school that they wanted to come to, if a scholarship is not offered, if the recruiting in that young lady's mind didn't go the way that she wanted it to? What's the best practice there?
Ooh, that's great. And so timely, as the NCAA has allowed a transfer portal situation to become crazy. 2 nights ago, I think women's basketball transfer portal was at 830 something. Last night, it was 950 something. And as the games continue to go and people lose, that number goes up and up. So it's timely because everyone in the portal won't have a home to go to. Everyone in high school, because of the trickle-down effect or whatever, just the needs of a program. You won't necessarily be able to go to your school of choice, your preferential school. High school, all the way down, AAU program, whatever, these are realities of life. It does not mean that all is lost. It means that you may have to take a different path to get to the end. It may mean that you have to reevaluate your skill sets, your people of influence, your work ethics, and your direction. It doesn't change it. I'm not being discouraging, but the reality is multitasking and being multi-perfectionist. I think that I'm a strong advocate for not throwing all eggs in one basket, which is why I encourage the balancing of, and you said the integrating, but the balancing of academics and athletics. I think the best thing in the world is to have options. I tell people on all levels, I say this to my children, to have options are what we work for, so that we can choose our destination. But I do say you continue to work harder. You be real with yourself. You ask questions as to what's needed. And if it's not for your program, you seek help and advice, and you say, do you know of anyone that needs someone of my caliber? What do I need to do to maybe get that next opportunity? Is it a situation where I can walk on and earn my spot? Is a situation where I can maybe pay some money to just be in the environment and learn, so that you can see me on a daily basis. You can see my value outside of my statistics, because I understand some people aren't getting looks. The stats don't necessarily equal what they're able to do. I get all those things. And we as coaches, Kirsten, understand it's not just about numbers, but there's some intangibles that someone can bring to a program because of our limited abilities right now with COVID restrictions to basically interface with children. There are going to be many people that get lost in the shuffle, because I'm not able to see on a daily basis that, oh, this kid really does encourage others. She is a value to that locker room, a value to that bench. So the question is pertinent. It's an awesome question, because it will happen. There's not going to be a time right now and moving forward that there's a young lady or a young man that doesn't get to where they thought they should be, or wanted to be. And I'd say deal with the realities of now, not what could have been. Don't wallow in what could have been, should have been. And don't be discouraged, but keep working.
I say this with great reverence. There's so much in your response that could act as its own fireside chat when it comes to career building and building relationships for the long haul of someone's life. So I appreciate literally every single syllable there. Kirsten, my last question for you. I've often mused, who cuts the barber's hair? Kirsten, who coaches the coach?
Well, I think if you're fortunate to work at a great place like Duke, you have the opportunity to be coached every day. I have a great, my direct report is Dr. Chris Kennedy, who's been at Duke for 40 some years. And, he is a great leader and a great mentor to me. And again, I think even Dr. White, our athletic director, is just, he has been kind of invaluable to me, over the last 10 years. in terms of helping me grow, helping me have good perspective. And I think really the biggest thing is you have to let yourself be coached. You have to, and I think even your own staff, again, if you have a really healthy coaching staff, it's a collaborative effort, which means sometimes you need to take direction from them. It's not always just you giving direction to your staff. And so I think, I think here at Duke, I've been so fortunate. I've got a lot of people who I feel like are in my corner who have coached me, and I've let them coach, and I've let them coach me. And, again, I think that's part of our growth as coaches is on a constant continuum. And if you decide to stop that continuum, then you stop growing. And I think our goal, I think we have to set that example for our players. Like, we are always striving to get better in our profession, in the different aspects of our profession, whether it's the relationship piece, whether it's the X and O piece, whether it's the managerial piece. Like, we're always striving to get better. And I think, again, you just have to allow yourself to be coached, because we work at great institutions and there's people that are always willing to help us in that regard.
Part of the fun I've had today is watching the two of you sort of take notes off of each other. And the bigger story there is that even though coaches may be competitors on game day, you guys give the appearance, and I think it's true. You really do like each other. And I think that's what you find in the coaching realm, is that you are genuine to your counterparts. You love what you do as an industry. You love the people you're doing it with. And I think today's been a great exhibition of that.
Well, I often tell people it's an addiction. I mean, coaching is an addiction. Because again, it's the highs are high, the lows are low, but then you just get right back on the horse the next day, because the winning and the relationships that you are able to forge in this profession, both with your players as well as other coaches and people you work with, really make the profession what it is. So thank you for having us. It's been great.
Tricia, you get the final word.
I get the final, man. First of all, in reverence and in awe, being with Kirsten. I mean, to be a 25-year vet, to have sown your seeds and just blossomed the program. I mean, I'm in awe and absolute admiration. And I say that with all sincerity. I mean, it's not often, becoming more often, but I am in awe, and I love to see. You just said who coaches the coach. And I think it's our responsibility to find a mentor and someone that we can look up to, because we know we're all going through the same thing. You said it, highs are highs and lows are low. And to know that you're not on an island by yourself is exciting. I love the fact that I'm right down the street from somebody that has done something so special. So in watching from afar and from a distance, I mean, I try to aspire to be like those that have had tremendous success and are still loving and passionate about what they're doing.
Well, maybe at some point the two of you can go downtown and get some of that food that we've been referring to, and
sweet tea.
Yes.
Continue it all. My name is Trip Durham, and I do thank our two coaches for being with us. Remember, this has been powered by the Durham Sports Commission. We call them Bull Sessions. Durham is the Bull City, so we thought that was an appropriate name. To learn more about the DSC, you can join them online at durhamncsports.com. We hope everybody has a fantastic spring.